Okay, get yourself ready for your morning practice. Sit on a lift, come into a good cross-legged position, and then just have a little wriggle about. Make sure that you feel like you are sitting evenly. So just have a little wriggle. Just make sure that you feel like you're level. Just breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberating breaths. And long, slow, deep, deliberate out breaths. Draw your shoulders down away from your ears and look down at the floor. Look at something that isn't moving. Just spend a little time just to observe the inflation of the lungs with the inhalation and the deflation of the lungs with the exhalation. Just hold and release your knees. Bring your hands into Namaste. Excuse me. Lengthen from the armpits into the elbows into the heels of the hands. And then close your eyes with an exhalation. Just focus on the breath. Breath brings us into the present moment because the breath is happening now. Spend the time to observe your energy, to observe the way that you are sitting, to observe how your body is feeling. Just using this time to tune yourself into the present moment. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Hold on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area. And then release your hands away down to the knees. Bring the backs of the hands onto the knees, palms facing upwards. Connect the tip of the index finger with the tip of the thumb. And then As you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Just hold onto your knees. Lift your chest upwards, drawing your shoulders down. Take a deep inhalation in through the nose. And then turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across, your ribs and your shoulders. Using your in-breath to bring energy into the body. Use your out-breath to power that energy into the turn. And then come back to the center. Take a deep inhalation in through the nose and then turn to the left, using your out breath to propel yourself around. And then come back to the center. Come off your left and then just sit back on your heels, have the big toes together and your knees apart, and then wriggle into the inner heels so that the inner heels roll out a little, so that the inner heels make contact with the outer buttock, so that the little toe side of the foot can connect to the floor, stretching from the instep out to the outer edge of the foot. Lift up into the chest and then come forwards, hinging at the hips, maintaining that connection between the seat bones and the heels if you can. Working with your breath. And then stretch forward. If your head doesn't reach the floor or you lose contact between the seat bones and the heels to bring the head down, then put a block under your head. Keeping the seat bones stamping down into the heels. Lengthen from the hips into the armpit chest, into the elbows, into the wrists, into the palms, into the fingertips. And then release your arms. Let's have the arms at the sides of the body. Let the back round a little. If this becomes heavy on your head, then consciously extend from the shoulders into the fingertips. Or grip around the feet, pulling yourself in. Just allowing your back to open up a little. Stretch your arms away again. Spread the fingers, spread the palms, push your hands deeply into the floor. And then lift your head, keep your right hand where it is. Thread your left arm underneath the right armpit, bringing the shoulder down, bringing your head down if you can. Keep the right hand in deep virasana, Adho Mukha virasana, and then try and push that left arm into the floor really firmly so that you open up in the shoulder blade region. So working both arms evenly, even though that they're in different directions. Finding that balance of action. And then release the left arm, stretch back into Adho Mukha virasana. And then lift your head, thread the right arm underneath the left arm. And then bring the right shoulder down, bring the head down if you can. Keep lengthening deeply into that left arm. You'll probably lose contact between the seat bones and the heels, but try and keep them down. And then push the right arm into the floor. Try and work with balance of effort between the left arm and the right arm. Rolling the chest down to the floor as well. Just breathing even deep inhalations and exhalations. And then just stretch your both arms out in front again. Coming back into padangusthasana. Bring your arms as wide apart as your shoulders and push your shoulders in. So bring the arms out in line with the shoulders and push the arms into the floor. Bring the hands to the sides of the body, palms facing down, and push. Try and keep the arms straight and push the arms into the floor. And then stretch the arms forwards again. Come up onto all fours. Have your little fingers on the edge of the mat. Thumbs stretching towards each other. Be on the tip toes. Have your feet as wide apart as the mat. And then come up into dog down. Spend a little time just initiating the body into the pose. Just observing where the body is today. Where the body is feeling today, where the balance of effort is weighted. So maybe on the left side, maybe on the right side, maybe it's more arms than legs. Maybe it's more arms than torso. So just find that balance or that imbalance and then address it on the inside. Find that balance between the left and the right sides, between the arms and the legs, the arms and the torso and the legs. Step the feet forwards, come up into a standing position, and then get a couple of blocks for your hands for half uttanasana. And then have your feet as wide apart as your mat. So you're turning your toes in slightly, lining the edge of the foot with the edge of the mat. So lift up into the chest. Lift up into the chest, tightening the kneecaps, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards. That action is going to give you space in the hips. Raise your arms up, bring your arms wide. And then hinge at the hips, come forwards, and then have the blocks underneath your hands. Have the hands underneath the shoulders. Remain on fingertips on the blocks. So as soon as we come into the pose, again address the internal balance of the pose. Between the left, right sides, between the legs, the arms, the torso, the legs, the torso. Projecting the chin and the chest forwards, activating the legs, tightening the kneecaps, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards. Just finding that internal balance. If you can go down lower, then do. If you've got a bad back, then just stay at the higher lift to protect your back. Or if it feels like it'll be okay for your back, then you can come down, but work with caution. Observe how changing the pose slightly maybe changes the internal balance of the pose. If you can reach the floor, then do. But again, just observing how each incremental movement into the pose brings about changes in your internal balance. Keep your hands where they are, walk your hands forwards, have your hands shoulder width apart this time, step the feet hip width apart, come back into dog down. And again, just address your interior balance. Observe which side is the more eager, which is the less eager. And get the reluctant side to follow the eager side. So that there is evenness of action. And then step your feet forwards, come up into the standing position. And just come into Tadasana. So just be in Tadasana. Spreading the toes, the big toes together, the heels together. Just observing your interior balance. Bring your arms out nice and wide, in towards the chest, and then step or jump the feet apart. Turn your left toes in, your right leg and foot all the way out. Bring the chest to face the front, turn the legs outwards, the opposite direction to Tadasana. Feel that you're working both legs evenly. You're extending evenly into both arms. You're extending the torso away from the legs. And then come over to the right side. But do you, in that process, lose the back leg? So find your interior balance. Activate that back leg to extend into the spine more deeply. Just look down as your head over your foot. If it's not, then lift the chest a little more, squeeze the front leg buttock bone forwards, hit the back leg towards the back of the room. Look up, breathing in and out through the nose. Come back to the centre, swap the feet around, turn the right toes in and the left leg and foot all the way out. And then come to the side, to the left. Finding that right leg and maintaining its prominence. Well, not prominence, its evenness. What's happening with that top arm? Is the palm spread? Is it rising up to the ceiling? Or is it kind of just hanging there? Make it extend upwards, away from the other arm. And then come back to the centre. Bring the feet parallel and then step. We'll jump the feet back together, come back into Tadasana. Just observe the body's reaction to the poses. Just listen to the breath. Bring the feet hip width apart. We can go into padangusthasana. So I'm going to do this sideways so you can see. If you can't reach, then you can get a belt underneath the big toes, and then you come forward like this, keeping the back straight all the time. So have the feet at least hip width apart, turning the toes in slightly. Have your hands on your hips for a moment. Tighten the kneecaps, lift up into the heart area. Wing the elbows back and then come forwards, hinging at the hips. Hinging at the hips. And then keep coming forwards. Go beyond halfway if you can. And then take hold of the big toes with the index finger and the index finger and the middle finger underneath the big toe, wrapping the thumb around the outside of the big toe. And then reactivate your legs as in Uttanasana. Projecting the chin and the chest forward, stamping the big toes into the floor, trying to rip them out of the floor like you're trying to pull a nail out of the floor. If you can bend your elbows out to the sides. Drawing the body in. Keeping the legs dead straight, tightened at the kneecaps. Just listening to the breath. Just being satisfied to explore the physical response to the pose. So you let your head hang down if your body is almost, your upper body is almost flat against the legs. But try not to drive forwards with the head. It makes you push the shoulder blades outwards. Keep drawing, sucking the shoulder blades in. Okay, let's just straighten your arms if you were bending them. Release the feet. Bring the hands into the hips. Bend your knees on the way up if you need to. And then come back up into Tadasana. Just lifting up into the chest. Breathing even, deep inhalations, turning the thighs inwards. Hitting your shins back to bring weight into your heels, lifting up into the chest. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. And then stretch your arms forwards, turn the palms all the way out, and then we're going to bring the hands into namaskarasana behind the back. So you bring the tips of the fingers together, walk the hands up as high towards your neck as you can, and then wing the elbows back, lengthen from the shoulders into the elbows, and then draw the elbows in towards each other, in towards the heels of the hand. opening the chest, lifting up to the sky with the chest. Long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Pushing the palms together, pushing the heels of the hands together, lengthening the fingers away from the heels of the hands. And then gently release your hands and then lift up into the chest. Turn the palms outwards, broadening the chest. Just listening to the breath. And then stretch your arms out in front, turn the palms all the way out, bring the hands back into namaskarasana. So walk your hands up towards the neck. Maybe this time you can get a little bit higher. Again, lengthen from the shoulders into the elbows. Winging the elbows back, drawing the elbows in towards the heels of the hands. And then bring the feet hip width apart, maybe slightly wider if you've got stiff hips. Turning the toes inwards, lift up into the chest, and then come forwards, hinging at the hips, keeping the elbows winging back. Move forwards, lengthening the front chest, keeping the front chest long. As you come forward, you can either let go of the hands behind the back, but keep the front chest lifted. Keep the front chest extending forwards. And then release your hands. And then see, can you place the back of the hand on the floor, and then the palm, the sole of the foot in contact with the palm of the hand. And then go back to that extension of the front chest. So padahastasana. So we went into it in a different way, but when you go into a forward bend in namaskarasana, it encourages the front body to lengthen. And so to come forward, you have to lengthen that front body. If you can bend your elbows out to the side. Feel that the gluteus muscles stretch and open. Keep the thighs turning inwards, the fronts of the thighs turning inwards, turning the inner knees towards the back of the room. And then just release the chin and the chest. Just release your hands, projecting the chin and the chest forwards. Just coming back into half uttanasana. And then walk your hands towards the end of your mat. Have your hands shoulder width apart. Have your feet hip width apart. And then come back into dog down. So from here, we're going to go into rajakapotasana. So you can either come down onto your knees and just follow the other instructions, or come into it from dog down. So if you're coming into it from dog down, keep your left foot where it is, bend that right knee, and then swing the right knee forwards to make contact with the right wrist. If you're coming on from your knees, just come down onto your knees and bring the right knee to make contact with the right wrist. Bringing the left foot underneath, the right foot underneath the left hip. So swinging that front knee forwards, having the right foot underneath the left hip, and then stretch that left leg back, come up onto the fingertips. Lengthen the abdomen, up to the diaphragm, to the collarbone, to the chin. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Turning that back leg, turning the front of the thigh inwards, the back of the thigh outwards to bring levelness into the hips. So if you're going back into this, into bent knees, just walk that back leg in and then bring the right leg back so that the knees are in line. Otherwise, bring the palms of the hands flat onto the floor, turn the toes under that left foot, maybe walk in a little, and then just push yourself back up into dog down. Bend the left leg, keep the right foot where it is, swing that left knee towards the left wrist, leaving the left foot underneath the right hip, and then stretching that right leg away, come up onto the fingertips, turn that right leg, the front of the thigh inwards, the back of the thigh outwards, lift up into the chest. Try and lengthen that back knee away from the front knee. And then bring the palms of the hands flat onto the floor, turn your toes under, walk in a little, and then step yourself back into dog down. Just finding your levelness and your internal balance in Adho Svanasana. Okay, and then come down onto your knees, just sit back on your heels for a moment. And just let your energy settle. Observe the energy that you have released, especially in the arms, and the shoulders, and the legs, and in the head, and in the torso. So everywhere, basically. Just listen to the breath. And then come down onto your back in supta padangusthasana. Soles of the feet together, your knees wide apart. Let the knees fall apart. If there's stiffness in your hips, you can support the thighs with blocks underneath them. Otherwise, just use the floor, have your hands on your lower ribs. Just observe the broadness of the hips. And then consciously stamp the heels together so that you can soften the hips a little, but you're still broadening them. Feel where the belly button is and broaden out from the abdomen into the abdominal walls. Just finding that levelness, even when we're in a reclining pose, that levelness of action. Just observing your breath. As you inhale, feeling the inflation of the lungs, and as you exhale, feeling the deflation of the lungs. And then draw your knees together, pull your knees in towards your chest, and then just a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just a gentle massage on the spine. So supta padangusthasana, just grounding your energy. And then just roll yourself onto your right side and sit yourself up. So we're going to come back into supta padangusthasana, but this time with a bolster. So have the bolster and have a blanket at the end of the bolster for your head. If you haven't got a bolster, you can just use cushions. So just make sure that it's in the center of your mat, and then just guide yourself. So don't be too close to the bolster. You don't want to be jammed in right from the start. Have a couple of millimeters away. Lift up into the chest, elevating the heart upwards, lengthening the spine along the bolster, and then making sure that the blanket is supporting your head, just your head and your neck. Again, in supta padangusthasana, if there's overwork in your hips, then you can put blocks underneath the thighs. But perhaps you can feel that the bolster really opens up the abdomen, broadens the abdomen. It broadens and opens the diaphragm region, opens the chest and the ribs and the heart area. So just listen to the breath. Have the hands on the floor at the sides of the body. Not too close into the sides, just to have your hands almost in line with your shoulders. And just breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. And emptying them from the top to the bottom. Just observe the rise and the fall of the breath in line with the inhalation and exhalation. Just becoming conscious of the sensations of the breath. Finding again that internal balance. Are you breathing into one lung more than the other? Or can you breathe evenly? Just observing that evenness of the breath, that balance of the breath. It's just the first stage of Ujjayi pranayama. Just to observe the breath. Not to control it, just to observe it and correct any imbalances. Just consciously inhaling and exhaling, feeling the openness of the front chest. Okay, to bring yourself out of the pose, push your elbows into the floor, lift your chest first, try not to poke your head forwards as you come up, and then just hold on to the big toes, sitting yourself in baddha konasana, lifting up into the chest. And then if you can, if there's no problems with your back, start to drive the chest forwards, keeping the head lifted, coming into baddha konasana as a forward bend, stretching your arms forwards. You can always put blocks under your hands to make the floor a little higher up. So lengthening the front chest forwards, pressing the fingertips into the floor really firmly. And then gently come back. And then just bring yourself into cross legs, just swastikasana. Just bringing yourself into cross legs. Just adjust underneath the seat bones for balance. And then hold onto your knees, elevating your heart area upwards, drawing your shoulders down. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across, digging the back hand into the floor, turning the abdomen. And then come back to the center, hold onto your knees, lift up into the chest. And then turn to the left. Just finding that balance of the seat bones, that internal balance of action between the limbs and the torso and the spine and the brain. And then come back to the center. So a nice way to stretch out your back at the end of the session, rather than doing shavasana, just traditional shavasana, get yourself a bolster and then have a block at the end with enough space for your head in between, and then have a blanket over the top of that block. And then if you've got something else to put underneath your shins, that's a nice way just to let the legs recover. So you're just going to come down onto your front. Make sure that your head is free of the end of the bolster, and then rest your forehead onto the block, and then let your arms just rest down onto the floor. So this is a nice way to release tension from the shoulders. Shoulders and the neck. Stretching out the lower back and the upper back. More the upper back than the lower back, but there's a little bit of extension in the lower back as well. And just allow yourself to relax. So this is the restorative surfboard pose. allowing yourself to release along the bolster. Feeling the release around the neck and the shoulders. Okay, bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Just push yourself up into a seated position. Sitting back on your heels for a moment, just observing your energy. And then sit yourself onto your bolster, come into cross legs. Just make sure again that you feel you're sitting evenly. And then bring your hands into Namaste, lifting the chest. Drawing your breath in through your nose, down into the abdomen, closing your eyes if you haven't done already. Be conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and the twists and the reclining poses bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Lift your chest up to meet your chin. Spend a moment to seek to acknowledge the positive energy you've created inside, around the heart area, and then send some of that positive energy out into the world. And then gently release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards, connecting the tip of the index finger with the tip of the thumb, just a gesture of wisdom and peacefulness that we can carry into our day. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. So hopefully you feel like you've stretched your back out a little, you've really lifted your energy and given yourself a good basis of energy for your day. So thank you very much.